Hi, everyone, for everyone who is joining us. Thank you so much. My name is Carol. I am the founder of Parentally, and we are a platform dedicated to supporting the well-being of new and future parents from pregnancy and beyond. And what we do in a nutshell is we provide access and we facilitate access to support, professional support, informational support, and also community support. And we are doing these lives together with experts from the Parentally platform to inform parents on all the relevant and helpful topics that they can use during their parenthood journey. So this live is recorded, so if you cannot make it until the end, we will share it on the YouTube channel. And our guest today is Carla Kalinawan. Did I pronounce it correctly? Awesome. I'm very happy to have you today, Carla, to talk about this very important topic about preparing for returning to work after maternity leave. Maybe I can leave you the floor to introduce yourself and to tell us who you are, what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm Carla Kalinawan, great pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the founder of the Working Mama Collective, and our mission is to support moms balance motherhood with their careers and to really kind of navigate that transition to motherhood with confidence. We do that through a group coaching program. It's 6 sessions spread for 3 months, focusing on really topics that help you not just survive, but thrive in balancing both. And quickly, my background, I spent 18 years in education and tech. I was leading customer success for a learning and development startup, most recently until starting this kind of entrepreneurship journey to really pursue my passion and helping moms and helping kind of professional kind of lead more productive lives. So that's a bit about
awesome.
me.
Yes,
and I'm a
thank
mom
you.
of 3 kids.
Oh, wow. How old are they?
6, 4, and 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Still young.
Still
Well,
young.
thank you so much for making the time to do this live together and to share your expertise on this very important topic, because I think becoming a mom in itself is already a huge transition. And to also add the transition to going back to work after maternity leave, it's always also a big one. So yeah, let's start. My first question, in your experience, what are some of the most common challenges, or maybe concerns that mothers may have, when returning to work after maternity leave?
I mean, there's a ton. We could spend all day talking about it. There's like a ton of challenges. And I would preface by saying that every mom's experience is unique because the external conditions, kind of the workplaces are unique. You might be returning back to work in a place that's very supportive to families. Your manager may have be a parent and have gone through kind of transitioning back from leave and have very kind of family friendly policies at work, to ones where you're the first person to ever return back to maternity leave. So workplaces can be very different, and so your experience will be different, as well as kind of what you're bringing in. Internally, you might be very excited to go back to work after spending so many months with a baby and being ready to be back surrounded by adults, or you might just feel like not ready to go back, or you might be feeling both on the same day. So lots of unique experiences, but I would say kind of some of the common challenges and concerns and questions. Number one is that you have been away for quite some time. So whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, there was a period of time that the organization was functioning without you, kind of your workplace. And so that may come with, a certain kind of very kind of complicated feelings around, it might be feeling insecure in terms of kind of what is your value and wanting to demonstrate kind of your value when you're back, or managing all of the things that are different about kind of work since you've been away. You might be kind of transferred to a new team. Your role might have changed. The goals and priorities of your company, of your organization may have changed. So navigating all of those changes might be, that raises questions. At the same time, things might be completely the same in terms of same role, same goals, same colleagues, but you've changed. And, as a mother, you've changed physically, socially, mentally, emotionally. The book, Lucy Jones Matrescence, that she talks about microchimerism, which is the phenomenon where fetus cells get transferred from your placenta when your baby's there, and years after, these cells still live in your body. So we talk about kind of the mommy brain, and that actually does, there are cells that get found in your brain, and it's an area that needs a little bit more research, but you're different. So kind of thinking about that as well. And then kind of last but not least is just thinking about balance. How do you balance it all with now having to take care of the baby on top of kind of what you were doing pre-mat leave? And how do you do that when you're not getting enough sleep? Your baby might be going through a sleep regression right around the time you're returning back to work. And so that is absolutely kind of a foremost concern, is how do you kind of function when your body is kind of not getting the rest that it used to get when you were not, before you had your baby. So that's some of the common challenges in a nutshell.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I really recognize some of these when returning to work. I think they're very common, but it's so much to think about, right? What are key things to think of, when you are about to go back to work? What are key aspects to pay attention to?
So I think, kind of the overarching thing to pay attention to is to remember to practice self-compassion. The same kind of compassion that you would extend to your baby when your baby's going through a transition. They have just learned to crawl, or they're just starting solids, and after a few days of that, there's just a lot that's going on, and your baby's kind of behaving differently. This transition doesn't happen on day one. It is a journey, and so you're going to kind of figure out how you're going to manage this, but it does take time. And feelings of stress, of anxiety, of guilt, they will come, and that's all completely valid, all completely normal. It's very common. Where you want to kind of start paying attention to is when these feelings start shaping the behaviors and the decisions that you make. So when you're, for example, feeling like you're not enough at work because you want to kind of, again, show the same level of output that you were producing before a baby, and that then causes you to take on more responsibilities, work longer hours. That's kind of when you want to pause and kind of really pay attention to what's really driving this decision, what's really driving this behavior. Is it coming from guilt? Is it, where is it coming from? And so being aware and mindful of this, it's easier said than done, but that's certainly something that, again, like, those feelings are valid and common, but, pay attention to what are the behaviors and decisions that are coming from it.
Makes sense. And we are talking about the feelings you may have when you have already returned to work, but actually, is there a way that you can, maybe even prior to returning to work, prepare for this return, and maybe try to anticipate it? And if you can prepare, what are some strategies that maybe you could
anticipating is right on, and this is where we can get some really practical some really kind of practical tips around like what you can do, because the more kind of practical and tactical you can be, the better prepared you can be when you return to work. So number one, if it's available to you, kind of practice like, what is the childcare kind of situation, and do a dry run of it. So if your baby is going to daycare, if he or she is going to be taken care of by your partner or a family member or a nanny, if possible, do that like a week before returning to work, if possible, for more, just so that you can kind of go through what your routine will be when you're at work. And so, for example, if you are going to know that you have the flexibility to work from home and then go to the office, see how it is like to work from home while your baby is being taken. If your baby's staying at home, for example, you might think that, oh, it's great that the baby's going to be at home, so if you're breastfeeding, you can kind of pop in and out of your office and then breastfeed, but then you might find out that actually this is far too distracting. The baby then gets kind of really upset whenever they see you kind of for a little bit and then have to leave again. So really testing out kind of what you envision in terms of kind of what your childcare situation is, to have a sense of kind of how, perhaps kind of what you envision might not be kind of what your expectations might not kind of match up to the reality. So that's number one in terms of doing a dry run for childcare. Number two would be, if you are returning, if you have the flexibility to return back to work on part-time versus full-time, start practicing some ruthless prioritization. So it's almost like if you're creating, we do a lot of to-do lists, but this one would be more of a to-don't list. So if you're returning back to full-time, and there's just things at home that you will not be able to do, so it's either something that you just doesn't get done, or you delegate it to somebody else. Just having a ruthless kind of prioritization around kind of the home responsibilities if you're returning back full-time. If you're doing part-time, that translates to the workload. What are some things that you're not trying to squeeze in a full-time level of work into part-time hours? What are meetings you can miss? What are ways that you can kind of stretch out a deliverable deadline? Just really think about a to-don't list for work as well. And so that also relates to the third thing, which is, we talked about kind of, preparing ahead of mat leave. And so really kind of think about what boundaries you want to set with your manager, with your colleagues. This could be something as very specific as blocking out time if you're breastfeeding for pumping, or it could be something like, I know I don't want to travel. If you used to travel for work, that you're not going to do that for the first 2, 3, however many months. So really kind of think through what those boundaries are, and it's possible to be a lot more strict about them, because it's easier to kind of loosen those boundaries than it is to kind of reestablish and have stricter boundaries when you've already kind of had, you've already were open to doing X, Y, and Z, and realizing actually that's becoming kind of a bit unsustainable for me. And then last but not least, in terms of kind of the mindset of preparing for work, is to plan for the unexpected. There's just going to be so many things that are unexpected, and to plan for it, and very specifically around your baby possibly getting sick and having to stay home. That is a very common thing, that you're 2 weeks into returning back to work and you're starting to get your groove on, and then suddenly you have to stay home because you can't send the baby to childcare or for whatever reason, or you get sick yourself because baby's bringing home germs. And so having a plan, especially working it through with your partner around things that are unexpected, like having a baby who's sick and now has to stay home, would be a good way to go. Yeah.
That's awesome tips. Thank you so much for sharing. And a lot of things I would never have thought of, especially the dry run for daycare. It's such a brilliant tip. Yeah. But you were talking about putting together a plan, for instance, with your partner. I don't know if, as a mother in maternity leave, you really want to think about work when you are in maternity leave. But if you have to come up with these plans, maybe you have to do them a little bit in advance. In your opinion, like what is a good time to start, thinking about this and preparing this kind of things?
No, when I was interviewing moms around this topic, it was clear that there's no one right answer. Yes. Some are like, I do not want to think about work at all. I absolutely I want to focus on my baby, and work is just like a fantasy that I'll think about, and so I think and then there's some who are like super, like they don't want to kind of lose touch with work, check in with colleagues throughout leave, check in with a manager. So there really is kind of no one way of when you want to start thinking about work, thinking about kind of what the plan is. I think the one time sensitive thing is around childcare. And so, depending on where you are, like in terms of wait lists for daycares, and nannies, kind of that would be the only thing that really dictates kind of how your return to work would look like. But really it's kind of there's not like a specific like, oh, you should start thinking about it like a month before. It's really kind of when you're mentally ready for, but just kind of planning for logistically around childcare.
And when it comes to the work itself, talking with your managers, is this something you have to prepare a little bit in advance, or you can just go back to work and
No, I think that's such a great question, and it's one that you want to kind of take some time to self-reflect in terms of what will your goals be when you are asked kind of when you have that conversation with your manager around kind of expectations. Having some clarity around kind of what you're capable of, things that will most likely change given kind of after you've experienced being back to work, and so kind of allowing for that flexibility as well, but having the same way that you have kind of you're picturing what the dry run for the childcare, and having kind of a mindset of what this would look like, having a mindset, a little bit of kind of visioning of what your ideal return to work, what your ideal kind of conditions would be, and then kind of allowing for having some flexibility based on kind of new inputs that you get. I would say that is one where you're kind of leading with a little bit more intention that's coming from you, and not letting kind of what the workplaces dictate how you're going to be at work.
Yes, makes sense. Thank you very much. Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
Talking of childcare actually, and management and everything, makes me think of support, because you will need support, and maybe what kind of support should what kind of support can mothers seek or expect when returning to work?
Yes. It is, I think that for I think there's tons of studies that show women are not great about asking for help. So that is just kind of like, ask for help is just, the too long don't read TLDR version of this. So from a workplace standpoint, again, like every workplace is different, and there are a lot more. There are some workplaces that are more parent friendly than others, but so kind of having a little bit of understanding of what our parent friendly kind of policies are, such as having a lactation room if you're breastfeeding, what are kind of the options for flexible hours, if you are kind of that worry around baby didn't sleep last night, like what are your kind of flexibility to be able to start work late so you can catch up on sleep in the morning, having that. So having a discussion around flexible hours, whether or not your workplaces provide stipends for you to get additional help, whether it's therapy, whether it's coaching, to have and to tap into the tons of resources and kind of the network that of providers that Parentally has. So some workplaces do provide that, and so if you're finding that the support is lacking, that is a conversation that you can kind of open up with your HR team to see kind of what is kind of possible. And if you hear about kind of all of these policies that can better support you, kind of really kind of understand and see if there's an opportunity to kind of introduce that into your company, into your organization. And so not necessarily advocating that quit your job and find a different workplace, but really it is a way to kind of open up and see about bringing those policies to your organization. Yeah.
Is this something you can ask in advance, or it is something you ask upon returning to work? These kind of questions.
I think that's a great point. And then that's something that even before maternity leave, you can start having that conversation. So that's something that, and it could be something as simple as like, how is my manager getting trained on my return to work leave? Like what kind of support is HR providing my manager to help me transition back from the workplace. So that is absolutely like a question that you can ask before maternity leave, and see kind of, if there is just kind of a standard set of steps, a process to really kind of empower and enable managers and leaders on supporting kind of you as a mom on your return to workplace. That would be like one quick question that you can ask before heading out on mat leave. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think I have one last question for you. It's the most important one. And then maybe we can move to taking some questions from the audience if there are any. But yeah, what is your golden advice for mothers who are returning to work?
So I coach and manage moms returning from mat leave for years now, and I have done it 3 times. And the best advice I got from during my first return from my most favorite manager is, she said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's about endurance. And so, yes, there will be days and nights that will be tough, but it does get better. But you have to remember that it's all about the long game. And sometimes you have this kind of, you just need to get through this day, just survive the day mentality. But when you can, and I know that it is a privilege and it's a luxury to zoom out and really kind of understand what is this kind of journey, ahead of you, and where are you headed? And sometimes it's very easy to do what's expedient, because that's kind of what you have to do. But taking the time to make some investment. So for example, like what I mentioned about kind of asking for help. Sometimes asking for help takes more time than doing it yourself. And asking for help from professionals, from your network, from community, from your partner, takes more time. But that is an investment for kind of the long term. And so it is more effort now, but investing and having kind of that long-term view is so important to kind of tap into during those first days, weeks, months, when you return back to work.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. It's like really spot on. Thank you very much for sharing this golden nugget. And like you said, I think like seeking support is so important. And this is what you are doing with the Working Mama Collective. And you explained a little bit at the beginning the type of coaching you were offering. Would you like to tell us a little bit more of how the program is built and what features?
Yes. So it's a group coaching program. We meet bi-weekly for about an hour and 15 minutes for 3 months. The cohorts are between 6 to 10 moms, all who have returned to work within the last year. So if you have returned to work in the last year, and you want some extra support on kind of how, you've returned to work and something's feeling like you could use more support, that's what this program is for. We cover 6 different topics around balance and prioritization, around kind of envisioning kind of the goals. When we talk about kind of thinking about the long term, this is really the space for that. And things around building resilience, because the unexpected will happen. There will be like bad days, but kind of how do you pick yourself up so that you're coming back up stronger? And we're offering kind of virtual as well as in person here in Amsterdam. But yeah, that's the program, and we're offering a discount code for Parentally members. It's 50% off if you sign up before August 15th.
Oh, awesome. Then I will share this for sure. I will share this in a post, but that's really awesome. Thank you very much. I think it is so important because most of the time when returning to work, we don't know what to do, what to expect, and it's such a huge transition. So the more support we can get, the better. I would like to open the floor now to some questions to our followers. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the comments box. I will check if we have any. But it was really a great session. Thank you so much, Carla.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions, or you can just wave and maybe we can take the question live? No. Anyway, if you don't ask the question now, we can always take questions later in DMs. You can contact me or you can contact Carla directly. I will share all her contact details. But yeah, I don't see any questions, so I think we can round this up. Oh, wait. I see a comment from Kanimosi Pandian. She says, I am a mother of two. Last time after my maternity break was really difficult. I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear.
It can be really difficult for sure. But yeah, it really depends also how is the team, you know, when you come back at work. It's really to catch with work as my mind was always around child. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and that's something that is part of the program as well, is around kind of focus and prioritization. How do you you know, what does that mean if this is happening kind of when you can't focus on work because you're thinking about the child? There's a lot to unpack there, and it is around kind of like what does work mean to you now, and really sometimes you don't have the space to kind of explore your identity as a working mom and what that means. And so we just, like you said, meeting expectations, or you're just kind of getting through the day. And so sometimes to get through the day, you bottle up or just kind of put aside these things that you don't want to deal with because you don't have the space or the capacity for it. And so sometimes when you do kind of face it head on, that can help you manage these different kind of emotions a bit better. But I totally hear kind of what you're saying, Kandi Mosey, around kind of, just thinking about your child and not being able to do more than kind of the bare minimum at work, because
yes, exactly. But I think that's also enough, you know, you don't have to do more than necessary. And I think you mentioned something very important about the ruthless prioritization, that you have to choose, pick and choose. You cannot do everything, or maybe not at the moment, maybe later, but it's a huge transition.
So good at creating to-do lists, not as good at creating a to-don't list.
I know this.
The don't list is very important. Yeah,
I'm gonna do that to-don't list. I love this. Well, thank you so much, Carla. I think it was a great session. I hope it was valuable for all our followers today. It's been recorded, so I will share it on the feed and on our YouTube channel. Would you like to say something to finish the live? Something else?
No, I mean, I think it's every mom's journey is unique. You deserve support. You deserve more than what you're getting now. I think that's kind of hands down. And I I'm here. Feel free to kind of DM and happy to kind of answer questions kind of offline as well. I know this is a sensitive topic. It's hard to kind of really talk about kind of in a public forum, but I'm happy to kind of answer questions via DM.
Yes, thank you so much, Carla, and thank you so much, Kanimosi. We totally understand. We see you, and we send you a big hug.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Goodbye. Have a nice day.